Hi everyone, I'm Ain. How are you today? I hope that you will have a good day. In every video, I will bring the best things in life for you. This is a truly wonderful article I happened to come across on Sohu, and I want to share it with you guys. Every effort you make is your way of trying to make a choice feel more right. I ran into Emma on a final day of the National Book Expo. It had been more than 6 months since we last spoke. Honestly, I thought she was someone I'd never see again. So when she suddenly showed up and invited me for coffee, I was genuinely surprised. We found a seat by the window. As the soft aroma of cappuccino filled the space between us, Emma said, "Sister, I think I'm starting to regret it. I shouldn't have followed my mom's advice and gone back home to work at that bank. Every day I'm forcing myself to do something I don't even like, pretending I'm okay while dealing with complicated coworkers. I'm completely drained. What should I do now?" Emma used to be an editor in my department. About half a year ago, things weren't going well for her at work. Her mother kept urging her to return to their hometown, promising a safe, stable job. Slowly, that got to her. When she handed in her resignation, I wasn't surprised. I knew she had the heart for it, but not quite the strength, not yet. She was careful and hardworking, but still lagged behind the other editors a bit. I saw that clearly. But I also knew she truly loved the work. They say passion is the best teacher, and I believe that. With enough time, I was sure she'd go into it. That's why I tried to convince her to stay. I looked into her eyes and said, "You don't need to compare yourself to others. Compare yourself to who you were. Don't you see how far you've come since you first started?" She paused, surprised, then slowly looked up. I continued, "You only slow at making books because you haven't had enough experience with cover design. And the standards here are high. But your proposal writing, your layout design, you've made real progress. You don't need to be better than others, just better than yesterday. That's already something." Emma had expected me to accept her resignation without hesitation. She didn't expect me to say all that. For a while, she didn't know what to say. When the silence lingered, I asked, "What did you study in university?" "Accounting," she replied. Turns out, just like me, she came into the writing world from somewhere else, and maybe that's exactly why it had to be love for her to choose this path anyway. I told Emma to set aside everything her mother and I said, and just listen to her own heart. After a week, she should come back and tell me whether she stayed or leave. A week later, Emma chose to leave. Of course, I respected her decision. More than half a year passed without any news from her. I figured she must be living the life she wanted and was purposely avoiding contact with her former boss. So when she suddenly appeared before me with such a heavy topic, I honestly didn't know how to respond. Outside the window, neon lights flickered endlessly. The colorful glow reflected on Emma's face, which should have been radiant, but her eyes held anxiety and loneliness, making her look utterly exhausted. I said to Emma, "I don't fully know your situation, but maybe my story can give you some inspiration. When I was young, many of the most important choices in my life were made by my parents. I didn't really get a chance to choose, or maybe I didn't give myself the rights. During middle school exam applications, my father made me fill in the names of a teacher's college and a prestigious high school. Later, when my grades qualified me for the prestigious school, he thought going to high school and then university was the better path. So I went to a top provincial high school. In 11th grade, when we had to choose between literature and sciences, even though I like literature, my parents believe if you master math and science, you can go anywhere. So they made me choose sciences. Then I failed the university entrance exam. My scores weren't enough for a bachelor's degree. My father, crushed by shattered hopes, lost his temper every day. Now I see life as a long, thick book. The entrance exam is just one page. Whether it's good or bad, you turn it and move on. But back then, to my 18-year-old self, the exam was a watershed moment that defined success or failure. Facing the cold stares from relatives and my father's scolding, I felt deep defeat. When it came to choosing whether to retake the exam or go straight to a junior college, my father chose the latter. He worried I might not do well if I try again. Actually, that was what I wanted too. I fear reliving those dark days, counting down to the exam. My journey of making life choices started the moment I left my parents. I studied at a junior college in Yangzhou, a city as beautiful and gentle as a graceful southern beauty, which sparked a lot of creative inspiration in me. Back in high school, writing novels was seen as a distraction, but in college, I finally shocked myself in books I loved, music I enjoyed, and writing I cherished. Compared to the dull and tough high school days, university life was colorful and free. The only pressure I gave myself was this: I had to get into a bachelor's program. I set this goal for 2 seasons. 1, to make the most of my college time to improve myself and made up for failing the entrance exam. 2, because employers prefer candidates with higher degrees, and I wanted to avoid being rejected just because of my education level. Higher education means more choices and freedom when looking for a job. You can pick work you truly like. Just like Long Yingtai said to her son, Indy Andre, I want you to study hard, not to compete with others, but you will have the right to choose meaningful work with time to live, rather than just struggling to survive. In my second year, I had the opportunity to transfer to the bachelor's program, but the high tuition fees made me hesitate, partly because of my family's limited financial situation. I called my parents to talk about whether I should take the transfer to bachelor's exam. Dad said, "Go ahead and try. If you pass, you can decide later whether to attend. But if you insist on going, you have to find a way to pay the tuition yourself." Mom was firmly against it. She said it was already had enough to support me through junior college, and my younger brother and sister also needed money for school. She told me I couldn't be so selfish, thinking only about my future and ignoring my siblings. In the end, my parents didn't really support me taking the exam. Their reason was simple. They didn't have the money to support my further studies. That night, After the call, I couldn't sleep. I tossed and turned, thought it over again and again. In the end, I decided to take the exam. It was the first time I went against my parents' wishes, and the first time I made a choice truly for myself. I can't imagine what my life would be like now if I hadn't taken that exam. All I know is I have never regretted that decision. Later, I passed the written and oral parts of the exam and got into a prestigious university. I solved the tuition problem on my own, through student loans and by writing articles for magazines to earn money. I finished my degree smoothly, and at that university, I found a rare and precious love. It was from that moment, making that choice myself, that I truly learned independence. After that, although my parents still gave me advice from time to time, I treated it only as a reference. The final decision was always mine. After graduating and entering the workforce, even more choices came, like after dating someone for a long time, should I marry him and spend my life with him? When housing prices drop, should I buy a house then? If I wasn't happy at work, should I quit? For anyone in the working world, job hopping is one of the most common decisions. At times like that, people around you will give you different opinions, and it's easy to lose your own voice. Take my last job change as an example. It was harder than any before. At that company, I created a women's reading brand called Butterfly Season. From publishing the first book under that label in January 2008 to December 2012, I helped publish hundreds of books and nurture many original authors. Those 5 years were when my youth bloomed during Butterfly Season. My hobbies and dreams took root and grew there. I had a deep, unbreakable bond with that brand. So when a new company repeatedly offered me a position, I hesitated. The salary wasn't much higher than before. Friends and family told me to stay. When my current boss learned I wanted to leave, they promised a raise next year. Only the others who had suffered delayed payments supported me leaving. They said if I did well at a new company, they would benefit too. Honestly, I was torn and found it hard to decide. But after weighing everything, I chose to accept the new offer, with one condition: no mandatory clock-in, no requirement to be in the office every day, flexible working hours. It wasn't because I was lazy. I wanted some time left for my family and kids when work got busy. No matter how hard a workaholic you are, you can't ignore your children's growth. After all, childhood happens only once. Though I enjoy flexible hours at a new company, I actually work even harder than before. I wanted those who didn't support my decision, even those who mocked it, to see that I made the right choice. And the facts proved it. I delivered results I was proud of within 2 years. Emma listened quietly, as if understanding something new. Looking at me sincerely, she said, "Sister, I get it now. I have to make my own choices and not be swayed by others. If I hadn't ignored my mom's advice and returned home, maybe I've made something of myself by now." To be honest, I've quit that stable but dull job back home. I'm ready to work in writing again. That's my passion. And I'm willing to work hard to grow my dreams. I believe someday I succeed, just like you. I smiled and said, "If success means following your heart and doing what you love, then you can count on me as your role model. But if success means power, money, or status, I'm still far from that." I continue, Of course, I wouldn't say no to those things if they came along, but I still believe that being your happy self, wherever you are, and having the freedom to choose your own life, that's more important than so-called success. Life is like a big test filled with many choices. How you choose is up to you. Even though there's no perfect answer, if you follow your heart, you regret less later and live a life true to yourself. And you'll find when your choices come from your heart, you work harder than ever because you want to prove with your actions your choice was right. Thank you so much for listening to me.